The free pod, the docking bay, was almost empty when Daniel stepped inside. The hum of machines echoed off the steel walls, and the smell of burned fuel still hung in the air. He had just finished a long run across the outer colonies, selling scrap and spare parts to anyone desperate enough to pay. All he wanted was some food, some sleep, and maybe a drink. But then he saw it, sitting in the middle of the bay, placed neatly on the floor as if waiting for him, was a pod. Not just any pod. This was a sealed stasis pod, the kind used to carry valuable cargo or living beings across space. The glass top was dark, the metal sides marked with strange symbols. Daniel stopped in his tracks. Pods like this cost a fortune. No trader, no smuggler, no official fleet would ever leave one just lying around. He looked around the bay. No crew, no guards, no notes, nothing. Someone's playing a joke, Daniel muttered. Still, he felt his skin prickle. Something was wrong. He walked slowly toward the pod, his boots clicking against the metal floor. On its side, glowing faintly, was a small message. Transfer. Nitrogen monoxide charge. Daniel froze. No charge? That made no sense. He wasn't expecting delivery. He hadn't bought anything. Pods were never free. He bent down and touched the cold surface. The pod systems hummed under his hand, alive and waiting. This can't be real, he whispered. Part of him wanted to call the dockmaster, maybe even the security team. Another part of him, the reckless part, wanted to know what was inside. He ran his fingers over the locking mechanism. A light flickered in response. The pod recognized his touch, and that was when he heard it. A sound from inside, not metal shifting, not gas hissing. A tap, soft, repeated, like fingers against glass. Daniel stumbled back. His heart thudded in his chest. His instincts screamed to run. But his curiosity held him in place. Another sound followed. A low, muffled voice. He couldn't hear the words, but it was enough to send a chill down his spine. Someone or something was inside. Daniel's breath caught. He looked around again. The bay was still empty. The other ships were quiet. No one seemed to notice. He swallowed hard. All right, what are you? He touched the console again. The display flickered, and lines of alien script danced across the screen. Daniel didn't understand the language, but one word was clear in the translation filter. Alive? He staggered back a step. His pulse hammered in his ears. The pod wasn't carrying goods. It wasn't a package or equipment. It was carrying a being. Questions filled his head all at once. Who left this here? Why give it to him? Why for free? And then the worst question of all. Was he being watched right now? Daniel turned, scanning the shadows of the bay. He imagined eyes hidden in the corners, cameras tracking his every move, unseen hands waiting to see what he would do. The tapping grew louder, desperate. The voice inside grew clearer, though he still couldn't understand the words. He took another step back. His mouth was dry, his throat tight. He could walk away, pretend he never saw it. He could call the authorities and let them handle it, but he knew himself. He was too stubborn, too curious. And something deep inside told him that if he left this pod here, something terrible would happen. He leaned closer, his face inches from the dark glass. For a moment, just a flicker, he saw movement. A pale hand pressed against the inside. Thin fingers. Claws? Nails? He couldn't tell. Daniel jerked back, his chest tightening. The console beeped. The locks clicked softly. No, he whispered. I didn't open you. But the pod didn't listen. It was unlocking on its own. Steam hissed out as the seal cracked open. A cold mist spilled into the air, curling around Daniel's boots. The sound echoed like a whisper in the empty bay. Daniel's hands trembled. He wanted to run, but his legs refused. His eyes stayed fixed on the pod as the glass lid lifted slowly. The mist parted dot, and inside, lying motionless at first, was a figure dot. It wasn't human. At least not fully. The being stirred, its chest rising and falling as it took its first deep breath. Its skin was pale, almost glowing under the bay lights. Its hair was long, tangled, and silver like strands of metal. And its eyes closed for a moment, suddenly opened, glowing faintly in the dark. Daniel's knees nearly gave out. He gripped the nearest railing to stop himself from collapsing. The figure turned its head slowly, its eyes locked onto his. And then, in a weak, broken voice, it spoke a single word, one Daniel understood. Help. The opening Daniel's breath came fast as the mist rolled out from the pod. The figure inside was no longer still. It shifted, its thin fingers moving slowly, like someone waking from a deep dream. The words still echoed in his head. Help. Daniel wasn't sure if he had imagined it. But the way the figure's lips had moved, the sound he heard, it was real. Stepped closer, his boots crunching softly against the frozen vapor spilling out. The figure blinked, its eyes glowing faintly, like embers hidden under ash. They were not human eyes, too sharp, too bright. But there was something in them, fear. Who are you? Daniel whispered. His voice shook. The being tried to sit up. Its limbs trembled as if they hadn't been used in years. Straps snapped free with small clicks. A faint alarm beeped from the pod and went silent again. Daniel hesitated, then reached out. Against his better judgment, he grabbed the figure's arm and pulled gently. The skin was cold, smooth, and strangely light, as though it wasn't. Built like a human body at all. The being coughed weakly, a sound that made Daniel's heart clench. And it spoke again. The words were broken, like someone learning how to use their tongue. You are human? Daniel froze. His heart skipped. It had spoken in his language this time. Broken, but clear enough. Yes, Daniel said carefully. I'm human. Who are you? The figure tilted its head. A faint, almost sad smile touched its lips. Safe. Finally safe. Daniel's mind spun. None of this made sense. Why had a living being been left in a sealed pod with a tag saying, "No charge"? Who would give something like this away for free? Before he could ask more, the being gripped his hand suddenly with surprising strength. Its claws or nails dug slightly into his skin. Its glowing eyes widened. They come, it whispered. They know the pod is open. A chill shot down Daniel's spine. What do you mean? Who's coming? The being shivered, its body tense, as though hearing something he couldn't. Then the pod console lit up. Red lights flared across the display. Signal sent. Location broadcast. Daniel's stomach dropped. He stared at the message, his mind racing. Whoever had locked this thing inside the pod, they now knew it was free. He swallowed hard. What did I just bring on myself? The being coughed again, leaning weakly against him. Hunters, it said. They will kill. Must not find. Daniel's thoughts raced. Hunters. Ships. Aliens. He had no weapons. No crew. Nothing but his old freighter docked just outside. Why me? He whispered. Why leave this pod for me? The figure didn't answer. Its strength was fading again, its glowing eyes dimming. But before it slipped back into silence, it spoke one last sentence. You opened it. That means you are bound. Daniel stared, his pulse hammering. Bound? Bound to what? Before he could ask, the bay alarm blared. A loud, shrill warning filled the air. Docking control announced over the comms. Unregistered ships approaching. All personnel remain in secure zones. Daniel's blood ran cold. They were already here. He looked back at the pod, at the figure now slumped weakly in his arms. He had seconds to decide. Leave it here, run, and maybe survive. Or take it with him and risk everything. The sound of engines rumbled through the station. Heavy, powerful. Whoever these hunters were, they weren't subtle. Daniel gritted his teeth. He knew what any sane person would do. Drop it, walk away, pretend it never happened. But Daniel had never been good at walking away. "All right," he muttered. "Guess you're coming with me?" He hoisted the being up, surprised at how light it was, and staggered toward the docking hatch. The alarms grew louder. The walls trembled as ships locked into position behind him. The pod gave one final hiss, its system shutting down now that it was empty. The lights faded until only darkness remained. Daniel didn't look back. He reached his freighter and sealed the hatch. The being lay on the floor of the cargo bay, its eyes half closed, breathing unevenly. Daniel rushed to the cockpit. His hands shook as he powered up the engines. Warnings filled his screens. Multiple ships were dropping out of orbit, circling the station like wolves around prey. "Hunters," Daniel whispered. On the floor, the being's voice came faintly, almost like a dream. "Run? They will destroy you if they catch us." Daniel stared at the incoming signals, his mind torn. His freighter wasn't built for fighting. Running was his only chance. But even then, would he be fast enough? He tightened his grip on the controls. The engines roared outside. The hunters closed in. And as Daniel prepared to launch, one thought haunted him. What have I unleashed? The awakening the freighter's engines roared as Daniel pulled away from the docking bay. The whole station shook under the weight of the hunter's ships arriving. Red lights flashed on his console, warning of multiple lock-ons. "Come on, old girl," Daniel muttered, gripping the controls. His freighter wasn't made for combat. It was barely holding together after years of trading runs. But right now, it was the only thing between him and death. The ship shook as something fired behind him. A blast missed by meters, lighting up. The starfield outside the cockpit, Daniel cursed. They're not playing around. He glanced over his shoulder toward the cargo bay. The being from the pod lay weakly on the floor, its pale hair spilling over its shoulders, its glowing eyes half open. "Hold together," Daniel whispered, not sure if he was talking to his ship or the strange passenger he had just taken. Aboard, with a hard push on the throttle, the freighter dove between two hunter ships. Daniel's heart pounded as alarms blared. He barely cleared their weapons, but he didn't slow. He aimed for the dark stretch of space beyond the station. For a moment, he thought he had a chance. Then a sharp voice crackled through the comms. "Unknown freighter, you have taken our property. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Daniel froze. Their property? He looked again at the figure in his cargo bay. Pale skin, glowing eyes, fragile body. Whatever it was, the hunters saw it as something they owned. "No chance," Daniel muttered. He switched off the comm. The being stirred at his words. Its eyes opened wider, glowing brighter than before. Its voice was weak, but clear. "You chose not to give me." Daniel blinked. "Yeah, guess I did. But you better start explaining why I shouldn't regret it." The being struggled to sit up, leaning against the wall of the cargo bay. Its breathing was heavy, but its gaze was sharp. "No, they are hunters. They capture, they erase. My kind, gone because of them." Daniel frowned. "Your kind? What are you?" The being looked at him for a long moment. Then it whispered a word that made the air feel heavy. "Last." Daniel's stomach turned. Last of a species? Last survivor? Whatever the truth, it meant. Trouble. Another blast rocked the freighter, snapping Daniel's focus back to the fight. He swung the ship hard to the side, engines groaning. The hunters were faster, stronger. He couldn't keep this up. "You said they'll erase you," Daniel shouted back. "Why? What makes you so dangerous to them?" The being's eyes flared brighter, almost burning. "Because I know how to end them." Daniel's hands froze. On the controls, he looked back at the glowing figure. For a moment, he thought he had misheard. "You what?" The being pushed itself to its feet, still trembling, but stronger now than before. It stepped toward the cockpit, its presence filling the small freighter like a storm cloud. "I was hidden in the pod to keep me safe. But when you opened it, they felt me. They come because they fear me." Daniel shook his head, his pulse racing. "You're telling me you're some kind of weapon?" The being's expression hardened. "Not weapon. Memory, knowledge, I hold. What can destroy their empire? That is why they hunt me." Daniel cursed under his breath. He hadn't asked for this. He just wanted a quiet life of trading and small jobs. Now he was being hunted through space because he picked up a pod that was supposed to be free. Another explosion rocked the freighter. A warning blared. Shields at critical dot. The being grabbed the back of Daniel's chair. Its eyes locked onto him. "If you want to live, you must trust me." Daniel barked a laugh, bitter and sharp. "Trust you? You just crawled out of a pod. I don't even know your name." The being tilted its head as if confused by the question. Then it spoke softly. "Name is lost, but you may call me Lyra." Daniel gritted his teeth, jerking the ship away from another attack. "All right, Lyra. What exactly do you expect me to do?" Lyra's glowing eyes narrowed. "Let me touch your ship." Daniel blinked. "What?" "Your systems. Your mind inside this metal. If I touch, I can guide. We can escape." Daniel hesitated, his knuckles white on the controls. Letting something alien into his ship's systems was suicide. But staying here, against these hunters, was worse. He swallowed hard. "You try anything, I'll eject you into space." Lyra's faint smile returned. "If I betray, we both die. That I promise." Slowly, carefully, she placed her glowing hand against the console dot at once. The freighter's systems flickered. The lights dimmed, then surged with power Daniel didn't know the ship even had. The engine screamed, stronger than ever. The ship leapt forward, faster than Daniel had ever seen it move. The hunters scrambled behind them, firing wildly, but their blasts missed. Lyra's eyes blazed, her hand pressing into the console as if she could see the paths of energy flowing inside. Daniel stared in disbelief. "You're flying my ship." Lyra's voice was calm, steady. "Not flying, awakening." The freighter twisted, turned, danced through the void like a predator among prey. For the first time, the hunters missed completely. Daniel's shock turned to something else. Hope dot, but just as the freighter broke free of the hunter's trap, a deep shadow loomed ahead. Another ship. Bigger, deadlier. A hunter command vessel. Its weapons lit up, locking directly onto them. Daniel's stomach dropped. "Lyra, tell me you've got a plan for that." The hunters arrived. The shadow of the command vessel swallowed the stars. It was massive, black as obsidian, its hull lined with red lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Daniel's freighter looked like a fly against a wolf. Becomes hissed. Then a cold metallic voice filled the cockpit. "Run if you want, human. You cannot escape us. Surrender the fugitive, and we may let you live." Daniel's throat went dry. His fingers tightened on the controls. He looked at Lyra, still pressed against the console, her glowing hand feeding strange energy into the ship. Her eyes narrowed. "Do not answer them." Daniel laughed bitterly. "Answer? Lady, I don't even know what to say. They've got a ship 10 times bigger than mine." Lyra's voice was calm, almost too calm. Bigger does not always mean stronger. The freighter shook violently as a warning shot blasted past them. Alarms wailed across the cockpit. Daniel cursed and jerked the controls, rolling the freighter. Just in time to avoid the next blast. "They're playing with us," Daniel growled. "If they wanted, we'd already be dust." Lyra's glowing eyes didn't leave the command vessel. "They want me alive. They do not care for you." Daniel's chest tightened. She was right. If he ejected her right now, maybe they'd let him go. Maybe he could survive. The thought clawed at the back of his mind, but he pushed it down. He had made his choice the moment he opened that pod. "All right, Lyra," Daniel muttered, his knuckles white on the controls. "If you've got some miracle plan, now's the time." Lyra's hand glowed brighter, sparks flickering across the console. "I can blind them, for a short time, but it will cost me strength." Daniel hesitated. "Blind them? What does that even mean?" Before she could answer, the command ship fired again. This time, the blast clipped the freighter's shield. The cockpit exploded with sparks, and Daniel felt the heat of systems failing around him. "Do it," he shouted. "Whatever you're planning, just do it." Lyra closed her eyes. Her entire body shuddered as energy pulsed from her hand into the ship. The freighter's lights flared so brightly, Daniel had to shield his eyes. Then, for a heartbeat, the stars themselves seemed to bend. The Hunter command ship faltered. Its red lights flickered wildly. On Daniel's console, warning signals lit up across the enemy systems. "They can't see us," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. "For now." Daniel didn't wait. He slammed the throttle forward, sending the freighter into a desperate dive below the command vessel. Sparks sprayed from the cockpit panels as the ship groaned under the sudden strain. "Come on, hold together," he shouted. The freighter shot into open space, slipping past the massive ship like a shadow in the dark. For the first time, there was no fire chasing them. No lock-ons, no come threats. Just silence. Daniel exhaled, his whole body shaking. "You did it." Lyra stumbled back from the console, her glowing hand dimming. Her face was pale, her body weak again. She sank against the wall, gasping for breath. "I cannot do it again soon," she whispered. "My strength is not endless." Daniel nodded, swallowing the fear in his chest. "Then we'll have to make this count." He checked his scanners. For the moment, they were clear, but he knew it wouldn't last. The Hunters were too many, too ruthless. They'd never stop. Daniel leaned back in his chair, his eyes closing for just a second. Then Lyra's voice cut through the silence. "You wonder why they want me?" Daniel opened his eyes. "You already told me. You're the last of your kind. You've got knowledge to destroy them." Lyra shook her head weakly. "Not just knowledge. I am more." Her glowing eyes locked onto his. "When my people fell, we bound our essence, our memory, our strength into me. I carry not just their history, but their will." Daniel's skin prickled. "You mean you're not just one person?" "I am the last, and I am all of them," Lyra said softly. "That is why they fear me. That is why they will not stop." Daniel tried to take it in. It was too big, too much. He had thought she was just another refugee, another victim of war. But now she was something far greater. Before he could answer, the console beeped sharply. His heart sank. Multiple signals, closing fast. "They found us again," Daniel muttered. Lyra's head lifted, her glowing eyes narrowing. "They will not stop. Unless," Daniel frowned. "Unless what?" Lyra leaned forward, her voice low, heavy with something dangerous. "Unless we stop them first." Daniel stared at her. "You're talking about fighting? With this ship?" Are you insane? Lyra's faint smile returned. Not insane, determined. You carry me now, Daniel. And with me, you carry the strength of a people the hunters thought destroyed. Before Daniel could reply, the ship jolted violently. A hunter cruiser dropped out of warp right in front of them, blocking their path. Another appeared behind them. Then another to the side, trapped. Daniel's single quotes as breath caught in his throat. He gripped the controls, his pulse hammering. Well, Lyra, I hope your plan's better than mine, because my plan ends with us dead. The hunters closed in, their weapons glowing brighter, and Lyra, despite her weakness, rose to her feet. Her voice was calm, almost commanding. Then it is time for me to truly awaken. The awakening of power the freighter hung in space, surrounded on all sides by hunter warships. Their black hulls gleamed like blades under distant starlight, weapons glowing as they locked onto Daniel's ship. Daniel's breath came fast and sharp. His hands gripped the controls, but he knew there was no escape. Not this time. Not against this many? Lyra, he muttered, his throat dry. They've got us. We can't run. We can't fight. What are you planning? Lyra stood behind him, her pale form glowing faintly in the dim cockpit. Though her body trembled with weakness, her voice was steady. They think I am prey. They think they have trapped me, but they are wrong. The comms crackled, a deep hunter voice echoing across the ship. Human, surrender the fugitive. You will be spared. Resist, and you both die. Daniel let out a harsh laugh. Spared? They'll kill me anyway. He looked back at Lyra. Tell me I'm right. Lyra nodded slowly. They do not let witnesses live. Daniel swore under his breath. He slammed his fist against the console. Then it's over. But Lyra stepped forward, placing a glowing hand on his shoulder. Her touch was warm, calming. No, Daniel. It is only beginning. Her other hand pressed onto the console. The lights inside the freighter flickered, then brightened with an otherworldly glow. Energy surged through the ship, humming like a living heartbeat. Daniel's eyes widened. What are you doing? Lyra's voice deepened, layered with something more than just one person. It was as if many voices spoke through her at once. Awakening. Suddenly, the hunters' ships shifted uneasily. Their sensors screamed alarms as the small freighter's energy signature spiked. The comms filled with static, then panicked. Chatter in the hunter's harsh language. Lyra's glow spread across the cockpit, filling every corner with light. Her eyes blazed brighter than stars. Daniel shielded his face, his heart pounding. Lyra, what are you? Her answer sent chills through him. I am the memory of a people they tried to erase. I am their last song. And now, Daniel, I will make them hear it. The hunters fired first. Blazing beams of energy shot toward the freighter. But just before impact, the ship moved fast, impossibly fast. It twisted aside like it had grown a mind of its own. The blast sailed past harmlessly. Daniel gasped. That wasn't me. It was me, Lyra said, her glowing hand still pressed to the console. The ship answers to us now. The freighter spun, darting between the hunters' vessels with unnatural precision. Daniel clung to his chair, barely able to comprehend how his rust bucket ship had become a predator among wolves. Then Lyra raised her other hand. The glow from her body pulsed outward, through the freighter, into the void itself, and the hunters' ships shuddered. Their weapons flickered. Their engines faltered. One by one, their systems glitched, sparks flying across their hulls. Daniel's jaw dropped. You're shutting them down. Lyra's eyes blazed, her voice like thunder. No, I am reminding them. A massive hunter. Cruiser in front of them groaned as its hull split open under pressure, like invisible hands were tearing at its metal. Daniel watched in shock as the warship crumbled, piece by piece, until it was nothing but floating wreckage. The hunters panicked. More ships fired, but their blasts bent away, missing the freighter completely. It was as if the void itself protected Daniel's ship. Daniel turned to Lyra, fear and awe mixing in his chest. "You're killing them." Her glowing face turned toward him. For the first time, her expression was grim. "Yes, because they would never stop hunting me. Or you." The freighter surged forward, slamming through the hunter blockade. Ships exploded behind them, their wreckage lighting up the darkness. Daniel tried to breathe, but his chest was tight. This wasn't escape anymore. This was slaughter. "Lyra!" He shouted. "Stop! You'll bring the whole fleet down on us?" Lyra's glow flickered, as if her power strained against invisible chains. Her body trembled, but she did not let go of the console. "They must learn," she said, her voice shaking with rage. "They must see that we are not gone, that I am not broken." Her glow grew so bright, Daniel had to look away. Outside, another hunter ship split apart, consumed by invisible force. Daniel's stomach twisted. She wasn't just protecting them. She was unleashing something ancient, something terrifying. Then, suddenly, alarms screamed across the cockpit. Daniel's console lit up with dozens, no, hundreds of new signals. His eyes widened in horror. "Lyra, the fleet, the entire fleet is here." The starfield ahead shivered as ship after ship dropped out of warp. Hunter vessels filled the void, larger and deadlier than any Daniel had ever seen. The command vessel from before was nothing compared to the massive dreadnought now aiming directly at them. Lyra's glow dimmed slightly. For the first time, she looked afraid. Daniel's hands trembled on the controls. "Lyra, I think we just started a war." Lyra's voice was soft, almost a whisper. "No, Daniel. The war started long ago. Now it ends." The dreadnought's weapons lit up, charging with enough power to erase them in an instant. Daniel stared at the blinding light outside the cockpit and whispered, "We're dead." Lyra closed her eyes, and the glow around her body surged again, brighter than ever. "No," she said. "We are alive." The freighter shook violently as the dreadnought fired, and then everything went white. Fire and ash-white light swallowed everything. For a moment, Daniel thought he had died. No sound, no pain, just endless brightness pressing against his eyes. Then, slowly, the light faded. He gasped. The stars returned. His freighter still held together, shaking but intact. Systems screamed, with red warnings, smoke rising from the panels. But they were alive. Lyra. Daniel croaked. She was slumped against the console, her glow dim, her body trembling, but her chest rose and fell. She was alive too. Daniel turned to the viewport and froze. The hunter fleet was gone. Not destroyed, not shattered. Just gone. The massive dreadnought, the cruisers, the swarm of escorts vanished. In their place hung a drifting field of ash and shattered fragments of metal, glowing faintly in the starlight. Daniel's hands shook on the console. His heart hammered in his chest. Oh, God. It wasn't just one ship. It wasn't just a few. It was all of them. Hundreds of hunter warships erased in a single breath. Lyra stirred, her voice weak. "It is done." Daniel spun toward her, his face pale. "Done? Lyra, you wiped them out. The entire fleet." Her glowing eyes opened slightly. They no longer blazed like before. Instead, they burned softly, like embers. They would never stop. Now, they cannot follow. Daniel pushed away from the controls, pacing the cramped cockpit. His chest felt too tight. "You don't get it. Do you know what you just did? You didn't just kill a fleet. You declared war on their whole empire." Lyra's gaze didn't waver. "That empire was already at war with me, with all who defy them. You saw it yourself. They wanted blood, not peace. Daniel clenched his fists. His thoughts spun wildly. He had only wanted to survive, to make his next delivery, to scrape through another day. Now he was standing in the middle of a battlefield that had turned into a graveyard, and he wasn't sure if Lyra was his salvation, or his doom. The comms hissed suddenly. Static filled the cockpit, followed by a chilling voice. Impressive? Little human. Daniel's blood ran cold. He looked at the console. The signal wasn't coming from any of the destroyed ships. It came from somewhere else. Lyra stiffened. Her glow flickered, as if she recognized the voice. You think one fleet matters? You think we cannot build more? The voice was low, mocking. We know what you carry. And now we know who protects you. Daniel whispered. They're still alive. Lyra's jaw tightened. The hunters are many. Their fleet's endless. The dreadnought you saw was not their true weapon. Daniel swallowed hard. Then what was it? Her eyes met his. A test. Before Daniel could answer, the ship shook violently. The console flashed with new warnings. He slammed a hand on the scanner. His heart dropped. Another fleet was already arriving. Bigger, faster. Ships unlike the ones before, sleeker, sharper, glowing with energy that made his stomach twist just looking at it. Daniel cursed. You've got to be kidding me. They just lost hundreds of ships, and they already brought more? Lyra rose weakly to her feet, steadying herself against the wall. Her glow grew faintly brighter. They will not stop. They cannot. Not while I exist. Daniel grabbed her shoulder. Then what do we do, Lyra? Because I can't keep running like this. And I can't survive another miracle blast like that. The ship's falling apart already. Lyra closed her eyes. For a long moment she was silent. Then she spoke, her voice calm, steady. There is one place they will not follow. A place older than their empire. A place even they fear. Daniel frowned. And where's that? Her glowing eyes opened. The hollow sky. Daniel shook his head. That doesn't sound like a place. That sounds like a grave. Lyra's faint smile returned. It is both. The freighter rattled as the new hunter. Fleet closed in. Weapons locked on them from every angle. Daniel cursed under his breath and slammed the throttle forward. Fine, grave or not, it's better than being shot out here. The freighter leapt into faster than light, vanishing into the void. As stars stretched into streaks. Daniel gripped the controls, sweat dripping down his face. You'd better be right about this hollow sky, Lyra. Lyra leaned against the console, her glow dim but unbroken. If we reach it, you will understand. Daniel's jaw tightened. He wasn't sure if that was a promise or a warning. Behind them, the hunter fleet turned, following. Their engines flared, their weapons primed. The hunt was not over. Not yet. The hollow sky the freighter tore through faster, then light space, its engines screaming as if ready to collapse. Daniel's hands gripped the controls tightly, sweat dripping from his brow. Lyra, he muttered, where is this hollow sky? And how far? Beside him, Lyra leaned weakly against the console. Her glow was dim, almost fading, but her eyes still held that quiet fire. Not far, she whispered. But we must reach it before the hunters close in. If they catch us outside. Her voice trailed off. She didn't need to finish. Daniel already knew. The console beeped, a harsh warning. The scanners lit up. Daniel cursed. They're already here. They're faster than us. In the void behind, dozens of hunter warships tore into sight, chasing with relentless precision. Their sleek hulls gleamed with energy, weapons glowing like suns ready to burn them from existence. Daniel slammed a fist against the panel. We're not going to make it. Lyra's hand touched his arm. Her voice was soft. Yes, we will. Suddenly, the viewport changed. The black of space twisted, bent unnaturally. Ahead stretched a vast rift, a swirling scar across the stars. Darkness bled from it, yet within the darkness shone faint, ghostly lights, like broken constellations trapped in an endless storm. Daniel's throat tightened. That's not a place. That's death itself. Lyra's gaze was steady. That is the hollow sky. The freighter shook as enemy fire streaked past, explosions flashing behind them. The hunters were closing in fast. Daniel shouted, "We can't go in there. That thing looks like it'll tear us apart." Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, just for a moment. "It will not. Not while I am with you." Daniel stared at her, his heart racing. He didn't know if he believed her, but he didn't have another choice. "Fine," he growled. "Hold on." The freighter plunged into the hollow sky. For an instant, Daniel thought the ship had shattered. The void outside twisted into impossible shapes, black oceans, burning stars, fragments of cities floating in the dark. Whispers filled the cockpit, voices from nowhere and everywhere, crying, laughing, warning. Daniel gritted his teeth, forcing the ship forward. This is insane. But Lyra stood tall now, her glow growing stronger the deeper they went. Her eyes shone with fierce light. "This is where they ended, my people," she said, her voice heavy with memory. "The hunters feared us. They trapped us here, in this place between worlds. They thought the hollow sky would erase us forever." Daniel glanced at her, his stomach sinking. "Then, why are you still alive?" Lyra's voice was quiet. "Because I was their last hope, a fragment of what we were, carried in a pod, hidden across time, until you found me." Daniel's chest tightened. He remembered the day he opened that pod. He thought he had just found some strange relic. He hadn't realized he was holding the last heartbeat of an entire people. Before he could answer, alarms blared. The hunters had followed them into the hollow sky. Their warships poured through the rift, their weapons blazing. Daniel cursed. "They're insane. They came in here too?" Lyra's glow flared. "They will not leave." She pressed both hands against the console. The freighter's panels lit with symbols Daniel didn't understand. Energy surged through the ship, shaking it violently. Daniel shouted over the noise, "Lyra, what are you doing?" Her voice echoed with many layers again, like 1,000 voices speaking through her. Ending it. Outside, the hollow sky came. Alive. The fragments of broken stars flared, the ghostly constellations spun faster, and the void itself began to collapse inward. Hunter ships twisted, crushed by invisible forces. Their weapons exploded uselessly, their hulls cracking apart like glass. Daniel's eyes widened in horror. "You're destroying them all." Lyra's glow was blinding now. "No, they destroyed themselves long ago. I am only showing them the truth." One by one, hunter ships screamed and vanished, swallowed by the hollow sky. The massive dreadnought tried to flee, engines flaring, but the void pulled it apart, piece by piece, until nothing remained. The cockpit shook. Daniel clung to the controls. "Lyra, if you tear this place apart, we're going with it." She turned to him, her eyes glowing like suns. "Not if you trust me." Daniel's throat went dry. He had no reason to trust her. No reason except everything. She had saved him again and again. And he knew deep down she didn't want to. "Guy here either." He nodded once. "Do it." Lyra raised her hands high. The hollow sky erupted in blinding light, swallowing every hunter ship in an instant. Then silence. The freighter shuddered, then burst free of the rift, thrown into normal space once more. Stars shone calmly around them. The hunters were gone. The hollow sky sealed shut behind. Daniel slumped back in his chair, gasping for breath. We made it." Lyra stood tall in the glow of the console. Her body trembled, her strength nearly gone, but her eyes still burned bright. "Yes," she whispered. "We are free, for now." Daniel looked at her, 100 questions burning inside him. But only one escaped his lips. "What happens next?" Lyra gave a tired, faint smile. "Now, Daniel, we rebuild." The stars stretched out before them, endless, waiting. For the first time, Daniel felt something he hadn't in years: hope.